Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Everyone, to Richness of Our Lives podcast. Today is a treat for me because I came across this amazing woman some time ago. We had this beautiful connection. I have got to know her a little bit better over a very short space of time. But let me just say a couple of things first. She is a smart woman. She has a degree in psychology. She has postgraduate studies in early intervention for learning difficulties, which says a lot about her in terms of everything about this woman is caring, warmth, kindness. She has done so many other studies, massage, tantric, you name it. She has done it because she has a deep passion for growing and learning and is committed to her personal growth. Now, that says just about everything, but there is so much more to say about this awesome woman. Let me introduce to you Katarina Dankova from Spain. She's very close to Madrid, she tells me, originally from Slovakia, and she's going to bring to you so much juice and wealth today. Welcome, Katarina. So lovely to have you.
Well, thank you, Mary, for your kind words and introducing me in such a beautiful way. You made me blush at the moment. So many nice things said about me. I don't think I ever heard that. Thank you so much for welcoming me, for this opportunity. I mean, for me, this is just a part of my learning curve and my growth. I have never been on live sessions apart from this once. As I said, last Thursday, I had a little bit of a warm-up. So, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, tell me about this long-standing passion of yours about personal growth and personal development. When did that all start?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I have actually never thought about it until speaking to you about these things. And I think it really started as a child, but I just wasn't aware of it, right? When we are kids, we just do all these marvelous things. And I was always a very observant child. I was a little bit strange. Or whatever way you want to put it, just a bit, different. I always kind of like to play on my own and observe the world rather than interact in it. And although the adults used to be very worried, I was happy. They did not understand that this was just great. I wasn't suffering or anything or losing out. So yeah, that was a bit odd. And I have always been and I still am a sensation searcher, I just love exploring and having different kind of experiences and obviously without getting into trouble. So always with the sense of security. But so and then I think when I became an adult and started at the university age 24, 25, when I enrolled, of course, into a degree of psychology, because human behavior is just it's my thing. I love observing. I always say to my partner, I said, if I could be paid for observing, I would be a millionaire at this point. But it doesn't work like that. So yeah, psychology was so appealing to me, also for personal reasons. I wanted to learn so much about myself and the others. And that's where I discovered about people with high sensitivities. So I kind of discovered myself. So, okay, I think this is what is wrong with me, right? This is this is why I'm different. So yeah, I'm extremely sensitive sensorially. I have sensorial hypersensitivities like smell and touch and hearing as well. So yeah, that kind of helped me to understand myself in the world and also the way I react to things, the way I perceive things. So yeah, that put my mind in ease and also I worked on myself a lot. So to develop tools, to not to feel so overwhelmed and emotionally overwhelmed. So in the world and in my relationships. So I think that was the beginnings of it, and since then it's just been on and on. And obviously the certain personal situations. I always say I lived for three lives, Mary. Sometimes I have that feeling. I had so many personal things happening to me that shaped me a lot, especially in my personal growth. You know, I don't really know if I have grown so much. If I don't know, probably not. As you say, those growth hurts, they happen when we hurt or where things are really bad. So I don't know, would you like me to go into the
No,
things
that's
that happened?
we lost you a little bit. I don't know what happened. So we didn't quite get a couple of those words, but that's all right. We will continue. The
Okay.
internet a little bit, I think a little bit lacking there, but that's quite all right. I want to go back to being different because you have a beautiful uniqueness about you. You have some amazing qualities, and you have highlighted one, the observer. Like you must have observed some amazing things that have touched you, that have taught you so much about not only yourself, but the depth of your awareness. Would you like to tell our listeners what you believe is the most amazing thing? I'm going to say amazing because when we observe, there's so much richness. And if you have heightened senses, which you're saying, I would love to know when you're observing, what's the first thing you notice about what you see in terms of senses?
Mm, yeah, that's a tricky question. I think it's something about the person. I'm very sensitive to energy, whatever kind of energy or emotional state the person is in. They don't need to tell me. I would kind of know, on what kind of wavelength they are. Um, so yeah, I don't know, it's this kind of intuition maybe. Obviously I have it very developed with my kids or the people that surround me because the closeness. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would be very good at that. Yeah, because I also I don't separate the mind and the body, they're kind of intrinsically intertwined. So for me, I mean, I think the sensorial part of all of us, it's the first way to communicate. I mean, that's when we are born, the babies. I mean, that's our first language, isn't it? It comes through senses, and then we develop speech, and then we can communicate. And I think the fact that my son has no verbal speech, he has no functional speech, it has kind of heightened that inside me as well. I have to rely on that. My son can't tell me when he's hurt or when, something's wrong with him. So I need to know that's the way I know. it's just by observing and the nonverbal language. And I probably understand him 80%, 80, 90, depends. So,
Good.
yeah.
Isn't it interesting? Because here you are as a little girl being the observer, and what you did say was that you were happy and that people noticed you were happy and they were a bit curious. And from a very early age, this was second nature to you. That's why I think it's a lovely uniqueness about that you bring. And here you are now a mum to two beautiful children. You just started to talk about your son. Tell us a little bit about him. He's nonverbal, and I think it's pretty good if you understand him 80, 90% of the time. All kudos to you. But you're his mum after all.
Yeah, but I'm also his only reference to the world, he has autism. So he's 9 years old now. He'll be 10 in September. So yeah, that's pretty many years now of nonverbal communication. Now he does have some speech now. He's developed over the last 3, 4 years. He kind of can defend himself and ask for things now, but then there is certain concepts or functional things he doesn't understand or he can't communicate. So yeah, so it's through me, he's kind of we have this quite symbiotic relationship that sometimes it's probably not very healthy, but that's just the way it is. He lives through me, in a sense. And I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, Mary. Sorry.
No, you're doing beautifully. No, I think it's lovely because the audience can feel this, that from an early age you were already preparing to have this wonderful child, and you also have a daughter. So I don't know. Do you think that's true? The universe was preparing you for where you're at now?
I don't know. Sometimes I do think that it's bizarre, yeah, that things worked out like this. Yeah. My mom would always say that we all have this star above us that kind of guides us. And it is true. I always felt somehow guided. Now I don't know if it's a lucky star or whatever. But yeah, it looks like I do have faith in life. I have always believed life has certain ways of certain patterns to put situations or people in our way so that we can grow or we can become our full potential. And yeah, totally. I mean, my son, obviously, he's raising up, he's caring for. It's not easy, and I will never, put positivity pants on, about him. But it is true that he's my master in personal growth. It's thanks to him, I have grown so much. I have learned so much from life. I have developed in a person that I wasn't before. And he's kind of like a lighthouse. Now, my both kids are in a very different way. So, when I deviate or something happens to me and I'm kind of like off the track, it's always my son. He always brings me back to, where I'm supposed to go. And yeah, he's kind of quietly leading me there into my potential, which I realized years ago now. So yeah, it's amazing, but it's you might ask me like, how is that? How does that happen? And you have to really change like 180 degrees your mindset, your attitude, everything that you knew up until then. It's like you have to re-raise that, because let's say his upbringing is very uncommon. I could not use the same style as I was using with my daughter or with just any other child. He doesn't permit it. He just doesn't. So I was kind of, there was a period of my life I was very lost with him. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't born with the manual, So or he wasn't born with the manual, better say. Um, so yeah, I had to be, I must say, very open-minded. And what I would like to portray as well to the listeners is that many times we can learn so much from kids, from children, and from babies if we allow them, if we just kind of step back and say, okay, I know I'm the adult, but this little person can show me so much. We can really, really, there's so mirrors to us, Um, so yeah, for me that was a huge learning curve,
Isn't that
with his
amazing? Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, no, it's okay. With his diagnosis when he was only 2 years old, we got a suspicion for his autism, and since then it was like a roller coaster. Um,
Tell me how so. Tell me about the roller coaster.
oh, yeah, the roller coaster. Yeah, well, loads of ups and downs. Basically, also my marriage was the time, yeah, that I decided to get divorced. And I'm not saying it was because of him, but it was thanks to him and his autism that yeah, I just kind of, realized that my children have never seen me happy. And if I didn't do anything about it, I would just die. There was something inside me like so strong. I was like, this can't be it. There must be so much more to life. This was just complete suffering. And I was like, gosh, and I always wanted to be a mom since I was 16 years of age. I just wanted to, I knew that was one of my purposes in life, just, to live out to be a mother. And then things like this happen, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's wrong? Then, I actually ended up in therapy because I didn't understand anything about my life. I didn't understand what happened to my marriage. I didn't understand what happened to this, wanted to be a mom and live out the motherhood the way I want. Obviously, I was so projecting. Life is just never a projection, isn't it? It's real, and you have to become real. I think that's was the kind of like an before and after, and so well, basically, when my son was born, he was born, a healthy baby, and when he was 3 months old, he had a little bit of an illness, a respiratory illness. And it was a moment, he was only 3 months old. I thought I lost him. So he was near to death. There was that kind of moment like, gosh, is he going to survive or is this it? So anyway, he has come through lots of consequences, obviously. And then at the age of 2, well, I mean, I did realize age of 6, he was just not developing the way he should because I already had my daughter, so I kind of knew it was my second baby, so I kind of knew how the things were supposed to go, and they didn't. So we started all the checkups and evaluations and psychiatrists and psychologists, and I also I was very adamant to have my kids at home with me until they needed to go to school, until it's compulsory. And I was also very pressured by the professionals within the schooling system that he needed to go to school. So I had to fight that a lot because let's say I had my daughter with me up until age of 3, and then she went to a creche. I just wanted that for me was important, and I wanted the same with my son. But because he was having troubles with his development, they thought he'd be better off in a school in a creche. So I resisted until he was age 2, and then I just kind of, okay, I think at this point I can make a compromise. And I also felt that maybe, yes, I was not able to give him as much as he would probably get in a crash. So I kind of stepped back and let him to go into a schooling system. And so yeah, and then eventually 2 years after that, the divorce happened, which was quite traumatic as well. And on top of that, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So it was like all these three things within like year and a half. Oh, it was brutal, brutal. I was very, very, very down. I was in this black hole. I didn't see light for a while. Um, Yeah, and things just went like from bad to worse for a while. Um, and then yeah, then I don't know, just kind of bit by bit started to see light and things improving and moving on. But it was not easy, not easy.
No, and that was 5 years ago, is that correct? That you
Five,
told the mum
6.
5, 6 years.
Mm,
So
mm.
how did you get through that time? Like you had one push, then you had another, then you had another, and how did you get through that time? Tell us about that journey.
I know, yeah. Well, I think the first, probably most important step was I have decided to do the postgraduate studies. And at that time, I thought I was doing that for myself. And okay, in a sense, I was, but I was also doing that for my son and for my daughter. And I picked that postgrad because it really helped me to know how to care for my son. So, and I just needed some action, I needed to feel that I am actively participating in my life, in even if things are not going the way you want them to go. And I mean the diagnosis of my son, I mean that's a shock, isn't it? I think no parents kind of wish for a child with learning difficulties. It's not something we wish for. It happens to you. And so you're absolutely not prepared for anything, and it affects all parts of your life, not just one. It's not only the parenting, it's everything. It's all your relationships with everyone, absolutely, and also within yourself. I went through an identity crisis. I was shattered. My self-confidence went so south. I just didn't know who I was anymore. So yeah, I think the postgraduate um, has helped me a lot to feel empowered, and that frustration of not being able to help my son has kind of dissipated by just learning about things. And I don't know if people do know this, but when you have a child with disability, you go through a process of, if like someone dies, someone dear to you dies. And so you do go through a grieving process. And actually, it's called a double grieving because the person you're grieving, it's not dead. I mean, my son was alive, he's there, and he just wanted to live, and he wanted to be just accepted for what he is, a little boy, not for his autism. And that's why I like also to separate. I don't like to call him an autistic. I like to call him a child with autism because first he's a child, he's a little boy, and after that he's autistic, or he's whatever label we want to put on it. So that was a huge realization, and but yeah, I had to go through a process like that. And his sister, my daughter, age 6, did go through that. So because it's something that you do not wish for a child with disability, so you need to go through an acceptance period that, okay, this is now and it's for rest of your life. And that helped, that was something that was on the course, on the postgrad, that helped me to, we went through a material, we actually did have a session on it, so dedicated to this, and that really helped, because I never forget the day my daughter, age 6, she realized there's something wrong with her brother. She did not, until age 6, she didn't realize there was something wrong with him, so that was kind of I think I would compare it to, when you're pregnant, to when you're arranging for going on a holiday to maybe a beach resort, and then so you're preparing for the journey, you're preparing for the trip, and you're making your luggage, and you're putting your bathing suit or your bikinis, the things that you think you need for the beach, and then suddenly you give birth, and so suddenly you go for this trip, but there is a mistake, or there's something happens, and you end up in the mountains. You don't end up in the beach resort, so all your luggage, it's just not valid. Nothing's valid. It's like you have to start from zero. So I kind of always felt like it was like that. So then I had to learn, I had to make my new luggage. I had to, prepare myself. Okay, we're going to the mountains. It's a mountain holiday. It's, a camping holiday. I have never been camping. I don't know how to camp. So it was something like that.
Wow, what a good analogy that is, because that first thing I was thinking about, it's the preparedness, isn't it? You were prepared, you were waiting, you were looking forward to,
Mm.
and it's not what you thought it would be. And it's so good that you're highlighting your daughter at 6. She realized her brother there's something wrong. She probably didn't know what it was. And yet the other thing that you said prior to that was that she would have gone through her own grieving
She
about
did.
expectations about what it would be like to have a brother or a sister, because she would have seen it. And then suddenly that's not what is the reality in the moment. So here are you and her going through this together. And
Mm.
one of the things you said, that your son has been the master, or he has helped you with mastery of life. Let's change that a little bit. And
Mm.
here were the two of you, like, grappling with this. If it's not this, what is it? And how do we do it? Because remember, you were prepared for this, and then suddenly you're ill prepared. And sometimes that's just horrendous. Not only are you walking backwards, you're certainly not going forwards. And sometimes that's failing forward, failing forward, failing forward. And what a lot of pressure. And I love the differentiation between, first, he's a little boy. I love that. He's a little boy who's autistic, not an autistic boy. And I thank you for that. I think that keeps this conversation real. It keeps it in the here and now. And I love it. And I mean, truly, that's what mothers do. And you're a deeply caring mother. And of course you would see this beautiful little boy, and then you have to decide how then, and this is what, think about this, how then do I integrate this new part of this little boy that I didn't know existed, and be okay with myself while you've got your daughter as well. So what could you say about that time? What was there one thing that helped you just to stay on the path? Because this was all unknown. You didn't have a manual, and new mums, new dads, they don't have manuals. But then even if you did have a manual, there was a twist, wasn't there? A kind of a real jarring moment. So was the one thing that helped you to stay with this is a beautiful little boy who is teaching us all, but he's also learning himself? Was there one thing that helped keep him as a little boy for you?
Yeah, I suppose there was many moments. You see, I have learned that already with my daughter to just kind of, because I like observing, I have observed in her how important it is to learn from your babies, you know. So I have learned with her already to listen to her. And I think it was through her and her process that I have entered mine, because, and I'm gonna say this is this a little story. It might be interesting for people to hear. It was one evening we were having dinner, just the three of us, and I always sit in the middle, and I have my son. He was only 3, and my daughter was 6, so he's on the right, and she's always on the left, and. It was through her, you know. I mean, she knows how to. I mean, at age 6, she was independent, like eating properly herself and stuff. But my son, because he also has like developmental delays, so age 3, he was still not able to, you know, feed himself or whatever. So there I was feeding him, and every 3 spoons, I would always caress his face or caress his hair, or would tell him how well he was doing, you know. And my daughter would go off and she said, Mommy, but why don't you do that to me? You never caress me, you know? So all these kind of things. And then one evening, the same situation, she just burst out crying and she said to me, Oh, mommy, you know what? I don't want a brother like this. I don't want a disabled brother. I don't want a brother with autism. And I was like, you know, how do I approach this? So I just asked her, like, why? Because he's never going to be, he doesn't speak, and he's never going to be able to sing happy birthday to me on my birthday. So imagine a 6-year-old. I mean, that was her concern that her brother, I mean, I can laugh about this now. I mean, at that time, it wasn't funny. Um, and so I put him to bed. I put my son to bed to sleep, and I just took my daughter and just I sat her on my knees, and she just bawled her eyes crying, and she just cried and cried. And I just cried with her. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say to her, you know. In a sense, she was right, you know, her concerns were right. And that's where I realized, okay, she now knows, she realized she just needs to go through her process. So I kind of, you know, well, so do I, because what am I going to tell her that that's not true? So I just validate. That's one thing I have learned a lot. Just validate the emotions. That's a huge learning curve in my personal development as well. We negate a lot, especially the negative feelings, you know. But that's how we are raised when we were small, wasn't it? Don't cry. What are you crying for? Um, so that's where I decided, okay, we just need a different system here. And I need two systems, one for my son and one for my daughter. And you know, things that we can do in common, well, we'll do in common. I mean, you know, things like not negating feelings. It's for everyone, and it was also for me. You know, I also had to acknowledge, okay, I need to go through my journey too. So I decided to actually enter therapy. um yes, I needed because I was very lost. I felt very lost at that time. And yeah, slowly, and you know what, there was this parallelism I realized as I was getting better. my son was getting better too, and my daughter as well. The three of us, we were kind of going in tandem. But it was me. I also realized, especially through my son, because of his symbiosis, he depends a lot on my emotional state. So I have to watch that's why I say he's my lighthouse. I really have to work myself and watch myself because he's so much dependent on the way I am. Because if I am bad, he goes bad. And I can't have that because he goes to extremes. I can probably control myself or whatever, but he can't. He just goes ballistic. And then it's very difficult to deal with him, and the dynamics are then disrupted. So it's always, he's my lighthouse. If I have a bad day or I have a bad patch, I just kind of, he lets me know, okay, mommy, you're just not there.
Yeah.
Do something about yourself, So yeah, he totally helps me always to realize, okay, let's do against something. We are off the track. So
Yeah.
this is how it goes. And it's a work in progress. I always say, it's not it's not that, life is perfect, or what it means is that we have, they're happy children, both of them. For me, it's the most important thing. So they're happy, they're emotionally very happy. And my son is the happiest child ever. And I get comments like, so it's not that I'm saying it being his mom, but everyone always tells me that he's just a very, very happy boy. And for me, that is the most important thing because, even in the school, you can't learn, you can't progress if you are not well emotionally,
Agreed.
So for me, it was always, and I have changed schools. He's been, gosh, into so many different schools when I feel that he's not faring well or he gets stressed or whatever is going on. I just, okay, let's go and let's move on. We, find a different place and, you know, and I know that he's in a place now and it's not his last. He's probably gonna go again eventually, but
Wow, that's interesting. And this, you told the story at the table was so potent, that story, your daughter discovering
yeah,
that her brother was not going to be able to sing happy birthday. And
yeah,
my goodness, what a smart little girl. She put this all together herself. And so I'm thinking maybe she's a bit of an observer like her mother. And she announces that to you, and you see the heartache and the heartbreak for both of you in that moment. And it's so palpable, isn't it? In that moment, it's like, oh my gosh, she is absolutely right. And then what you do as a smart, kind, caring mother is you validate that emotion, which is just a beautiful thing. And then you realize that you actually need two systems, separate systems for two very different children. And I imagine that's true for a lot of parents rather than one rule for all. It never works, does it? That never ever works. And we started this about your uniqueness, and what I'm hearing is you're honoring your children's uniqueness, and then you apply what's necessary to bring out their potential. And I think that's a beautiful thing. The other thing is that really strikes me is that you knew you needed support. You knew that you needed to go into therapy. And I applaud you immensely, because people reflect things. And our children, my goodness, they reflect and mirror so much. We go, oh no, like clearly I need to do some work. Where I better go, And
yeah.
I think how wonderful, what a rich journey that would have been. And it's funny you say you say you have two happy children, and way back you were saying that in your marriage you were unhappy. It just wasn't doing it for you. And now you've got children that are mirroring that, your happiness and your place. And it's just amazing, isn't it? What a gift that is that you are bringing here to our audience. I love this conversation. It's so rich and juicy. I love juicy conversations, as you know.
Me too. Well, those are the real ones, aren't they? I was also going to say on the beginning, actually, I haven't achieved anything like amazing in a sense, like, I don't have too much courses behind me. I haven't read too much. I don't, have too much knowledge, or, I'm not managing any teams, or I manage my little team, but anything as extraordinary as maybe other women have achieved in their lives. But I do also like to make a difference between knowledge and wisdom. I might not have much knowledge, but I do consider myself, I have a lot of wisdom, very internal wisdom. Yeah, a lot of internal wisdom, and I feel proud of that. And yeah, but it is thanks to my children. And as you said, that time when I decided to divorce, yeah, that time was brutal. I mean, most people would tell me I was crazy, what I was doing with two minors. I mean, I'm an expat, I'm a foreigner where I live. I have no family whatsoever. I have no support. I had no job. I had two minors, from which one with disability, and completely dependent on me. And they were still very small. My daughter was 7 and my son was 4. And I filed for divorce, and I don't know. I just there was this feeling inside me that if I don't do that, if I don't step up, I will die. I don't know how, but there was a huge part of me just dying. And yeah, as I said, I've seen my kids, they never seen their mom happy, and for me it was just so important. I think that was just kind of a survival thing. And I didn't know how it's gonna end up. I didn't know how I'm gonna live. Didn't know nothing, but there was this fate, there was this something so strong inside me that I always believe life will just not allow anything bad to happen to us. And that's how it was.
Wow.
And here
And
I am.
what a what a contrast. If I stay, I'm going to die. And that's pretty catastrophic, because that's exactly what some people choose, and that's exactly what does happen. We just give up inside. We just curl up and we pray for something better. But what you did, once again, tapping into your uniqueness, you took the opportunity to choose you and a rich life for the three of you, which is a beautiful thing. And it's interesting. I'm smiling, and I mean no disrespect, but you then compare what you thought you might say, comparing yourself to other women. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's a woman with a degree in psychology, postgraduate graduate studies. You've worked in palliative care. You've done this, you've done that. You have so much knowledge. And I'm so thrilled that you have wisdom, because you are wise, so wise. You don't make the decisions you've made without some innate wisdom, knowing that this is the path that I need to follow to truly stay alive. I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? Am I hearing
Yeah,
this correctly?
yeah, you couldn't have studied better. Completely, yes, that's right. It's just choosing myself and just following that essence, or whatever way you want to call it. Some people might call it, your soul path, your I call it my heart, my center, my essence, my true self. It's hugely important to me. It always has. Now I have diverged. Yes, I did. I got lost. Yes, I have sold my soul sometimes, few times I have. But I have always regained that center. And I'm not saying sometimes I do still, go off the path, but I think at this point, I know I'm much closer to where I want to be than I was 5 years ago. So I still don't maybe know exactly how or when but I am much, much closer on it. Yeah.
How
I think the only
wonderful.
thing, only piece that is missing now, it's probably my professional life, because in trying to get the kids to be emotionally stable and happy, I have kind of, prioritized their needs, obviously, because I'm the adult and they needed that. So I kind of feel now that they're kind of, settled and they're faring well. So it's the time for to look into myself that I maybe it's not that I've forgotten about myself on the road, but yeah, I probably did partially. So now it's kind of going back to Katarina and prioritizing myself a little bit more than them.
Yes,
So
that's
yeah.
lovely. And I love the lighthouse, that, oh, it's just beautiful. It describes it so well. And what you were saying about the lighthouse is that you have to maintain a particular state within yourself, and the lighthouse is the guide, right? Whoops, there's a storm coming. I better manage this. The lights are going off, and I think that's a beautiful way to be able to measure it. There's the lighthouse again. I need to do this. I need to make changes. And I think that's a great tip for other mums that may be listening to this, that they need to get their own lighthouse to help them. And maybe the lighthouse was your way through. And I have no doubt whatsoever it was terribly traumatic. And I'm so, what should I touch that you tell us what you've been through, because I think there's lots of mums and dads out there managing their children, their own life, their own needs. There's always this thing, my needs, their needs. And you said, I'm the adult and they're my priority. And sometimes early in life, that's exactly what happens. And what I see out there is sometimes mums and dads never ever get back to themselves. So I think it's good that you're highlighting that, because now you are going to make a point of coming back to you. What is it I want to do professionally? And your learnings are just huge about how to manage all this. Expectations come to mind. I had this expectation and then this happened, so I had to manage that. The whole emotional, I'm going to call it's like a whirlwind, isn't it? 20 different emotions in a day, and how do you manage them? I think you're giving some very potent points for people listening to this. And I really thank you, because there are a lot of people that are lost. They've lost their rudder to their boat. They can't even see the lighthouse because the overwhelm is so huge. So let's just think about this for a moment. If we have people listening to this, what is it you would say if they feel like they're all at sea? Let's stick to the same analogy. If they're all at sea and they're not sure, they can't even see the lighthouse, and they're not sure what to do next, is there one thing that you could share with us today that would help them to reconnect?
Yeah, I could probably share many things. I think it's so important not to compare your life to anyone else's. It's very difficult because we all do that. We all do compare all the time, and it's very humane. We need reference, so it is something very innate in us. We will always compare to, I don't know, our cousin, our brother or sister. Look at his life, look at her life, look at, I think it's at that point, it's really, really look at your priorities. What is important at this moment in your life? What is the most important thing for you to feel, I don't know, safe, or just take really, really one day at a time. And within that one day, take an hour, each hour or each moment of the day. I think just being what I learned uh, through these traumas or these life events of mine is really, really being present. That's what my son mostly taught me, is to be in the presence, in the now. What has happened has happened. It's like, the milk has been spoiled. So what do I do with the milk? Will I get angry? Will I get upset? Will I, start shouting? Or will I just say, okay, let's just clean this up quietly? And, I take a napkin or whatever, and I just rub the place nice and clean, and it will be okay. And if I spill it again, well, now I know what to do when I spill the milk. So, choice. That's the only thing we have. On the end of the day, it's the choice of how I think, what I think, when I think. Um, do I choose to be here and now, or will I choose to be thinking, oh, what could have been? What does that serve me? What does that serve me at this moment when I'm in this trouble, when I'm lost at the sea? It does not serve me to think what could have been, but it will serve me to think, okay, this is my reality. Now I am lost at the sea. What can I do with that? And for me, it was just really taking small steps, really, really tiny steps, something that really brings you pleasurable things, even if they're just mundane things, like taking your cup of coffee in your favorite place, having the conversation with someone that you love, or, someone that you care for, or, going for a walk with your dog, or just going for a walk yourself. Or for me, I've decided, there's a moment in my life I decided, look, I am not heart transplant surgeon, right?
Yes.
So there is no rush. There is no expectations, only the ones I decide to have. So no expectations. I mean, like, people expecting things from you, like, no, just don't accept them. So for me, it was very much, now I have reached a moment in my life where for me it's important, a slow life. For me, that's my priority. My priority is slow life, the life of my pace, my pace. I pace myself. I choose to pace this way because that's what keeps me in my harmony, in my center. And I need that. I need that to be a good mom. I need that to be a good friend. I need that to be a good partner. And I need that to be a Katarina that I am. And that was huge. Once you do that, it's just, and like once you do that shift, I think within yourself, everything else will shift around you. You will see that, and you don't have to do anything. I realize that now more and more. Once I make my shifts, everything around me shifts the way I want it to shift. It's amazing. It's like, I think we all have inside us that magic wand, which obviously it's not magic. It's not magic. It's very hard. It's hard. It's not easy. It's much easier to choose the other path, isn't it? It is. But that's a short term, that's short term. If you think long term or kind of like consistency, do you want to be just temporarily well or happy, or you want to be long term or for rest of your days happy and centered? And I'm not saying I always am, because I'm human. Of course, I have these moments of, but that's where my kids come in, that's where what I would like to maybe advise that, everyone can find a lighthouse in whatever aligns with them. That doesn't have to be your kids. It can be something external. It can be, I don't know, nowadays we have so much information. It can be a book that you read. It can be, a music, that you put to listen, or a conversation, or, a connection with someone's. I don't know. There can be so many lighthouses out there, but I think a willingness. You need to want. You really need to have the will.
Absolutely. My goodness.
Something.
I was just watching you. You just came alive. You're passionate, just oozing life force, telling that. And I'm not even going to recap that bit, because you said it beautifully, and so many wise words from you. And I love your passion. I love your warm-heartedness. You have so much love flowing from you, Katarina. It's just wonderful. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving your time to us today. I feel blessed and richer for listening to your story, and what you're bringing to the audience is just beautiful. So much gratitude. And once again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Mary, for giving me this opportunity. It was important for me to speak about this. I think it was part of the healing process, to externalize all this that has been inside me for so long. Yeah, there is a bit of that as well. So thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.